You hear the name Saks Fifth Avenue and you think luxury, right? High fashion, the best of the best. So how on earth does a giant like that just fall apart? Well, this isn't a story about a company that just lost its way. This is about a company that deliberately threw away its legacy for a strategy that, well, it was a complete disaster. Okay, get this. Imagine you're a designer, a really good one, and you're in a meeting at Saks Fifth Avenue, and the buyer looks you in the eye and says this: "My job is to buy mid-level knockoffs." I mean, can you believe it? That one sentence, that wasn't just some off-the-cuff remark. That was a bombshell. It was the signal that everything, and I mean everything, was about to change. For generations, this was the temple of American luxury. That iconic storefront, it stood for something, right? It was a promise of quality, of curation, of style. But while everything looked perfect on the outside, a totally different game was being played behind those doors. So to really get what went wrong, we need to see it from the inside. And that's where the story of a designer named Hadley Pollitt comes in. She had this one meeting, and it completely shattered her entire perception of what Saks was.
And look, before things went south, Paulette's relationship with Saks was the dream. Seriously, we're talking an 85% sell-through rate, which is amazing. She had real friendships with her buyers. They'd meet for tea and cupcakes, they'd talk strategy. It was a real, genuine partnership, built on respect and a shared goal: selling beautiful things.
So what exactly got lost in the shuffle? This wasn't just some minor pivot in business strategy. Oh no. This was a head-on collision between two totally opposite ways of thinking about what luxury retail should even be.
All right, let's break it down. On one side, you have the partnership model. That's the old Saks. They thought of themselves as co-stewards of a closet. It was all about mutual respect, trust, friendship, reordering stuff that sold well. Simple, right? But then you have the predatory model. This is the new Saks. It's an extraction business model. All those good things, gone. Replaced with penalties, chargebacks, and yeah, that knockoff strategy we talked about. Two completely different worlds.
And Paulette got a warning. Her original buyer, the one she had that great relationship with, pulled her aside and said this: "Things are changing a lot here." And then, poof, that buyer was gone. That was the first real clue that the culture they'd built was being systematically torn down. After that cryptic warning, the red flags just kept coming. It became super clear that Saks was no longer a partner. It was turning into a predator. And it happened in a few key ways. First up, they started messing with the money. Payment terms went from 30 days to 60 days. Now, for a small brand, that's a huge deal. It can crush your cash flow. Then, they introduced these things called chargebacks. Basically, they'd penalize you for tiny, insignificant shipping mistakes. It became, as Pollitt put it, a whole new way for them to make money off of you. And the worst part, if a buyer ordered too much of something and it didn't sell, guess who got punished? The vendor, not the buyer who made the mistake. And Hadley Pollitt just laid it out perfectly. She said, "This is an extraction business model now. This is not a model where somebody's partnering with you." And that's it right there. It wasn't about building something together anymore. It was about squeezing every last drop of value out of their vendors. And, okay, it's really important to get this. This wasn't just one bad buyer or a bad experience for one designer. No, this was the new playbook. This was a conscious, top-down strategy that people started calling the Walmartization of Saks. So here was the big idea. The new buyer literally spelled it out for Paulette. They'd put her beautiful, original designs right next to a cheaper knockoff, a dupe. The theory was, hey, the customer will probably buy the cheaper one, and because our margins are way better on that cheap one, we'll actually make more money. They were banking on the idea that the math would make up for losing, the entire soul of the brand. And this right here, this says it all, doesn't it? On the left, you have what Saks was: curated, beautiful, aspirational. On the right, you have what it was becoming: a volume game, just like any other big box store. And let's be real, these two things just cannot exist under the same roof. It's oil and water. And I'm not being figurative here. It was literally happening. Another vendor, a CEO named Steve Greenspan, tells this story about how he saw Saks selling the exact same coat hangers that his company was also selling on Walmart.com. The same ones. The mask was off. It wasn't about curation anymore. It was just about moving widgets. So to chase this online dream, they basically torched their biggest strength:
the legendary in-store experience. They took all that money and poured it into an e-commerce site that was, frankly, terrible. It was clunky, years behind the competition, and what were they selling on it? Well, a lot of that Walmart-grade stuff. It was the absolute worst of both worlds. Okay, so a strategy this broken, it was never going to work long-term. And when it all came crashing down, the fallout was massive. We're not just talking about money here. We're talking about a real human cost that hit everyone involved. Let's just start with the headline number. When the whole thing imploded, the company was sitting on over $4 billion in debt. Just let that sink in for a second. And a huge chunk of that, an estimated $800 million, was owed to the vendors, the very same designers and creative partners that Saks had built its predatory model on. They got squeezed on the way in and left holding the bag on the way out. To give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, $136 million of that was owed to a single brand, Chanel. Chanel, the absolute pinnacle of luxury. So this wasn't just affecting the little guys. This wave of destruction hit everyone, from independent designers all the way up to the biggest names in fashion. But the giant numbers don't really tell the human story. The bankruptcy left so many freelancers high and dry: photographers, stylists, creative artists, people who were told, keep working, we'll pay you, right up until the end. And then nothing. And what was it like on the inside for the employees? It was demoralizing. One former sales associate said the stores felt like they were just there for one reason: for online customers to return stuff. Imagine that. Your beautiful luxury store reduced to nothing more than a glorified returns counter for a failing website. An attorney for the vendors really hit the nail on the head. He said the entire model of retail is built on trust. You, as a designer, are trusting the retailer with your inventory, your creation. Saks didn't just break a few rules. It shattered that fundamental trust at the heart of the whole business. And that's the thing. The vendors can file lawsuits, lawyers can argue, but the customers, they have a much simpler way of passing judgment. They just stop showing up. They vote with their wallets, and they walk right down the street to your competitor. And once they're gone, they're gone. Which brings us to the big question, doesn't it? The story of Saks is more than just a business school case study. It's a warning, because when you trade away all your trust just to chase a few more transactions, what do you actually have left to sell? That fancy name above the door, it's just an empty sign.